Hello, everybody, and good evening. I guess I should be saying. This is Sue Roseberry, and this is the Midland Storytelling Festival update. I'm so delighted that you have joined us to hear all of the latest news and information about the Storytelling Festival. If you're joining us this evening, do me a favor. Put your name and where you're from, where you're looking at us from in the chat. Hi, Tamika. We're so glad to have you. And also, the other thing I want you to do is begin to like and share so we'll be able to grow our audience. Now, Tamika and Brenda have been so brave. You put your names out there early. Let me know how you're hearing me as well because I'm vacillating with some new technology. Y'all see my little cute mic that I got going on? It's so cute. It looked like R2D2. Okay, well, I'm working with some new equipment and trying to make sure that I don't blast you out and I'm not talking too loud. So, my little inside mic and then my new cutie mic. So that's what I'm working with. So let me know in the comments if you're hearing me okay or if it's just too loud or something because I'm working with getting it all together. Hi, Chucky from Shreveport. I'm glad that you are here because you're going to hear from one of our storytellers that is coming to the Midland Storytelling Festival. And the exciting thing about the festival this year is that it's going to be virtual. So everybody everywhere can participate, listen in, and hear it. Some festivals that we have attended, they have a ticket price. So that kind of precludes some people from participating. But our festival is going to be offered to you free of charge because we have some wonderful, wonderful sponsors who wanted to make certain that everybody could get the opportunity to be able to participate in storytelling. Hi, Calvin, all the way in California, and Bertha, I'm glad that you all are here. Now, let me bring to the screen one of our storytellers who has been coming to Midland for a number of years. She is from Lansdowne, Pennsylvania. Would you welcome Miss Charlotte Blake Alston? Hi, Charlotte.
How are you, Miss Sue? Hello to everyone who has joined us this evening.
Yes, we are glad that you're here. And not only are we saying hello to everyone who is currently watching, but we're also giving a shout out to everybody who will watch it after a while, when they're going to be watching it after a while. So, Charlotte, you have been coming to Midland. Do you remember your first year coming? Do you have any idea what was the first year you came to Midland, America?
Oh my God, I really don't. I'm trying to determine whether it might have been in the 90s or or the early 2000s. I know, and you know this as well, that after a few years, the dates changed because of one of our storytelling participants, Rex Ellis, who at that time was at the Smithsonian Institution, and that ended up being the week of his board meeting. So we moved it to the week that is my birthday. So I do remember observing some milestone birthdays in Midland, Texas. Might have been the one with the 5 and the 0, might have been one with the 6 and the 0, the 6 and the 5, the 7 and the 0. So it's been quite a while since when I started coming to Midland. So annual trek that we joyfully, and it's just a pleasurable experience for all of us.
So it's become kind of like a family or an ensemble, if you will, because people have asked, do you ever change up your tellers? And Patty Smith, who was our founder of our festival, she was just convinced that there are no better storytellers in the world. And we miss Patty, we certainly do. But Charlotte, tell me what it's like for you getting to participate with this ensemble group of tellers every year.
Well, I guess I'd have to acknowledge what Patty said, that we are among some of the ones who are highlighted, that you see the most on festival stages. There are oh gosh, a ton of really good storytellers out there in just about every region of the country. And I believe that Patty sort of pulled your coattail and dragged you down to the National Storytelling Festival in Jonesboro, Tennessee, to take a look at some of the tellers who were performing there, and she made her decisions. But I'm also glad to know that we have some tellers who are fairly new to the Midland, Odessa audience. And that's also good to know that, you know, each year that we come down there, that's the audience that we are in front of. But because we are virtual, because our hand has been forced in a way, that we're able to open the festival up to people from anywhere here, domestically or even across the pond. But this is a group of not just storytellers, but really extraordinarily wonderful human beings, people to be with and spend time. And we enjoy each other's company. We enjoy each other's stories. We enjoy watching each other work. We enjoy talking about storytelling, and we enjoy just the fellowship that exists among us as well. So a lot of us find ourselves together often at festivals and events around the country. But I don't know, there's something about being in Midland in December that makes it particularly special for us.
Well, I will tell you that it's like the kickoff for our holiday season. 1992 was the year that the festival got started, you all, and it was started under the umbrella of the school district. And so we were primarily catering to an education emphasis for character education and things of that nature, but it has grown to be so much more. Storytelling is for everybody. Charlotte, talk a little bit about the focus of your particular style of storytelling.
Sure. I would characterize what I do, mainly my content for the most part are stories that come out of African or African American oral traditions. And it is a combination of traditional folk tales from the continent. Most of the stories that I do probably from West Africa, where most African Americans are descended from, but I look for stories from many places across the continent. And as well as historical tales that I tell. I think I've included the story of Bessie Coleman in this year's festival. The piece that I do about Louis Armstrong, it's a rap. A piece I do about John Henry. So a lot of it is centered around, not exclusively, but primarily centered around those stories that come out of African and African American oral tradition. And for those of you who might be new to storytelling, for all of us, really, there is, unlike theater, where actors are interacting with each other on stage and they've created an environment. And the audience does not exist in a sense. Technically speaking, there's a fourth wall. There's no fourth wall with storytellers. It's a synthesis between the energy of the storyteller and the energy of the audience. We connect with one another. A lot of my stories, particularly the ones that I do for our younger audiences, are highly participatory. So audiences get to join in on the stories. It's not exclusive to kids, because I have some stories that I do with adult audiences where you get to join in, whether it's a chant or a melodic line or something that repeats in the story that we sing. So it becomes a communal kind of experience, excuse me, when I tell. And really, probably, some of the seeds for that were planted when I was very young. Just before we came on, I thought to myself, I should have run over there to the other side of the room and grabbed a book off the shelf. And it would be the complete poems of African-American poet Paul Laurence Dunbar, which my dad handed to me when I was about 6 years old, and selected a poem for me to read. I read it over and over. I had no difficulty reading the style in which it had been written. It's kind of a transliteration of the way African-Americans spoke during and post the time of enslavement, which is a dialect, which is sort of a combination of articulation patterns from leftover from African languages merged with English. But even as a child, I didn't have any difficulty reading it, because as I looked at the words on the page, in my mind, I could hear the melody and the rhythm and the articulation pattern of my great aunts and uncles from Southern Virginia. But when there was a poem I read over and over and over again, and I memorized it. And I think when my dad saw how quickly I memorized it, a little light bulb went on, and he started writing these little comedic monologues for me to learn too. And I'm talking about pieces that are maybe 6 or 7, 8 minutes long. that I would learn and stand up and recite, and he would coach me on what to do. I have only 2 photos of myself as a child reciting, as we would call it. And I know exactly what I am saying based upon my body language and my hand position based on the way my father coached me. But I also have a background as an educator. I taught young children, and being animated is an important part of being a teacher of young children when you're reading or telling stories. So I think my style kind of evolved over time, and it started formally telling traditional stories while I was still teaching in the school where I was teaching. And the reaction initially kind of surprised me, and I wondered what the big deal was. And I went to hear a storyteller at a program here. I'm just out Lansdowne. It's just outside of Philadelphia. One of our oldest guild, Patchwork Storytelling Guild, who sponsored an event. And I went to see them, and the first storyteller is just a Robin Moore. It's just a small frame guy, not really very big, sat down on a stool and just, with his voice, just transported us out of the space we were in into the Western Plains, and you could see the streaks in the sky. And that's when I understood its power. And around that same time was when I began to research stories that came out of the oral traditions. And in West Africa in particular, there is a centuries old tradition of passing down history orally and passing down the stories from the culture orally. But if you go back in your own, whatever ethnic background you hail from, if you go back far enough back, you will find an oral tradition. Before there was the written word, there was the spoken word. So you can find oral traditions in just about every culture on the planet. But I think we're also, as human beings, wired for storytelling. Just sit around a dinner table. That's going to happen in just a couple of days, where people are going to be sharing stories. Even children want to share and talk about stories and talk about their day and things that happened to them, or create stories. So I think as human beings, it is how we are wired to connect with each other as human beings, regardless of, the man-made barriers that we tend to put in front of each other. Those stories that have been passed down through the ages contain the collective wisdom of mankind. So I hope that answers. That's a storyteller, man.
That answers it perfectly. And if any of you have ever had an opportunity to hear Charlotte, you know that she does it like nobody else. She is so widely in demand, and we're so fortunate to get to have her come to Midland over and over again because she loves us so much. So, those of you who have not participated in the festival previously, you're in for a treat. I want you to know that you can go to our Midland Storytelling Festival Facebook page, and the schedule of events will be there for the whole virtual weekend that's going to begin on December the 3rd, and it will go through the 5th. And we'll be partnering with Basin PBS and, of course, utilizing our own festival YouTube page to be able to provide all of the festivities that will be taking place during our virtual weekend. Charlotte, one thing that you do so well is sing. Your voice is like honey, honey, honey. It is so beautiful. Can you just tell a little bit about how you are inspired to weave music into your storytelling?
Yeah, I have to giggle every time someone compliments me on singing, because for such a long time, I carried some baggage from childhood into adulthood. My sister, when we were growing up, was on the opera track, and from our church, our church was expecting her to be the next Marian Anderson. So we thought, well, I can't even stand in her shadow. But I think it was just a gift that I was born with. My mother was a musician. My mother began studying organ as a teenager, and she was the organist in our church. She played piano. She conducted choirs. She sang. My grandmother, her mother, was a vocalist as well. And I think we just inherited that vocal gene, but I never really employed it except with children. When I was teaching, I always had a song circle. When I was teaching, I taught kindergarten and second grade. And it wasn't really until I stepped away from teaching and I started really stepping on this storytelling path that a woman by the name of Busy Graham, she was my first agent, and she saw me doing a lot of singing with kids, and with the adult programs I wasn't. She said, "You need to sing a little bit more." So then I did. I claimed my birthright. I claimed my voice, and yeah, I just developed it over the years. But yeah, as a kid, I sang in choirs, and I have to tell you, at an early age, 6, 7, I could hear harmonies. I used to always sing the harmony of the hymns when I heard them. So I think in many ways, thanks to my mom, my dad gave me the language, the spoken word gene. My mom gave me the music gene. And it took me a minute, but I finally really began to incorporate vocal work as well as storytelling. And many of the stories that you find, the traditional stories, have songs in them. So I wanted to make sure I incorporated those as well.
And then your just natural rhythm, and then, by us being, who we are. We got rhythm in the way we walk, rhythm in the way we talk. It's in the hand movements. It's in everything. It's in our gait. So it's just naturally in there.
And it gives me an opportunity to play with all of that. And particularly, I mean, there are pieces that I have written that are all done in rhythm. So it just, storytelling gives you an opportunity really to expand, to explore, to deepen your range, to deepen the ways in which you tell stories, and to incorporate all of those just to make it even more engaging. So yeah, I play with all of those things. In fact, I really had an earlier meeting today, and I was talking about one of the raps that I did, and that was, and you may see that if you log into that it was really trying to survive my son's adolescence. Because he was like smack in the middle of 12 years old, on the precipice of teenage years when rapping first came on the scene. And we thought it was going to just nicely go away and leave us alone. And it did not. So I figured I had to lean into popular culture to see what kids were tuned into, and then take that and use that as a tool, as a teaching tool. So yeah, I'm able to incorporate all of that. I remember the very first time I did a rap. It was in the lower school of the private school where I taught, and it was the lower school rap, and I said something about every single grade from kindergarten to 4th grade, who their teachers were, what they were working on, all in rhyme. And this little girl said, she was a 2nd grader at the time. He said, and this is a Quaker school where they refer to you as teacher and your first name. So she said, "Look at Teacher Charlotte trying to bust a rhyme." I'm like, trying to bust a rhyme? I am busting a rhyme. I know how to bust a rhyme. So yeah, it gives me an opportunity to really play in all of those ways. There's sometimes that I'll be about to do a set, and I decide to do something that's really kind of wacky and crazy, and I just hope that the MC is not giving me the dignified, stately kind of introduction, because then I feel like I can't really play around and be silly and foolish. But yeah, it gives me an opportunity to play with all of that rhythm and rhyme, and just playing around with words. It's just fun.
Well, the best part of all is that you, as an attendee of the festival, get to hear and enjoy all of these wonderful stories, all of these wonderful tellers. Let me tell you who the lineup is going to be for our festival this year. We're going to have Donald Davis of Ocracoke, North Carolina. Of course, Charlotte, who has already you've already seen her this evening. We're going to have Barbara McBride Smith, who is from Jonesboro, Tennessee, but not really. We'll talk about that more when we have her update. We have Antonio Hasha, who is from Gray, Maine. Annalon Gilbreth, who is our West Texas teller. Really, we claim her from Midland, even though she lives up the road in Lubbock, Texas. We'll also have Bill Lepp, who comes from Charleston, West Virginia. Laura Pershing Rayner from Ann Arbor, Michigan, and Willie Claflin from San Francisco, California. Now, it does not get any better than that. Those are 8 of the most heralded tellers in the country, and they'll all be part of our virtual storytelling festival. So I need you to put that on your calendar to join us beginning December the 3rd through the 5th. And the good part is that because it's virtual and a large portion of the festival will be via our YouTube channel, you can go there and point and click and watch it as many times as you want. You can watch it and memorize the stories and tell it right along with the storytellers. When I was a little girl, our favorite stories that came on TV, we had memorized them and become so familiar with them, we could turn off the volume. And we could just take our own little role and we could be the voice of the story. So I want you to enjoy storytelling to that extent. And this year, you can pull your family close, those that are in the house with you, and get the blanket and get the popcorn and just
family friendly.
yes.
Highly family friendly. And just want to also emphasize that each teller has their own unique style, their unique set of repertoire and their unique way of presenting their stories. From me to Willie, who's got the moose puppet, who's from Antonio, who also uses his body to tell stories in mime. So everybody has a completely unique style. So we're not all the same. We're all telling stories differently.
Absolutely. So we want you to tune in. And if you're coming to the festival for the first time, we'd love for you to just let us know. You can make comments on the YouTube platform. You can also make comments on anything that we're doing live and tell us what we're doing. Please tune in. You will not be sorry that you spent the time with us for this virtual festival. As I mentioned, a good portion of it will be on YouTube, but we'll also be broadcasting via television on Basin PBS. That will be on Friday morning, the 4th of December. I'm getting those dates are going like this. The 4th of December, Friday morning at 10 o'clock a.m., you'll be able to tune in to Basin PBS and see Charlotte and Willie Claflin and Laura Pershing Rayner present a program of stories for kindergarten through 3rd grade. But we're not leaving out anybody. We also have content for middle school and for this year, secondary level too, because we can do that because we're virtual. So this is stretching us in ways that you wouldn't imagine. And we're offering content for everybody. And then on Friday evening at 4 o'clock p.m., you can tune in to Basin PBS and see a wonderful night of family storytelling for everybody that will feature our youth storytellers. We have some children who are going to be telling stories from our community, as well as Barbara McBride Smith and Donald Davis. And then on Saturday evening, y'all, at 7 o'clock p.m. will be the main event, an Olio, as we call it, that will feature all of our acclaimed tellers in a 2-hour special event. Charlotte, why do they call it an olio? What is
That might be some good storytelling homework for those of us who are tuned in. And I think it does refer to, and it happens at the National Festival in Jonesboro, where normally when we're in person, everyone is in tents or multiple venues. For the olio, the audience stays put. The tellers go from one tent to the other. So you get to see up to 10 tellers at the National Festival. But it's an evening of little clips, of not just clips, but stories from every single teller as opposed to seeing one or two. I would also like to encourage people to spread the word. Often here in the United States, when somebody hears storytelling, they say, oh, what book do you read in the library? That's not what this is. And often people who haven't experienced it aren't really understanding what it's about. So spread the word to friends who have never experienced a storytelling session or festival before. Have them come in, click, drop by, won't hurt anything. Sit down with a bowl of cereal or what. We can't see you. So however you want to come, in whatever state of dress it is, it's not going to take anything away from you if you just take that moment to engage. And I'm sure it will be really difficult for you to navigate away once you see it.
That is the wonderful segue into my being able to tell you that we've reached our time limit for today, but we're so glad that you tuned in. I had Charlotte praying before the broadcast began because my internet has been fickle fackle and acting like it don't want to be stable all the time, but we made it all the way through. So Charlotte, your prayers are strong. You ain't good, girl. You ain't good. So we want to thank you for tuning in with us today, and we want to invite you to tune in tomorrow morning for the next Midland Storytelling Festival update, where I'm going to be talking with Mr. Storytelling himself, Donald Davis. And Donald has been coming to Midland since we have been having a storytelling festival. I was going to say, like the old folks used to say, since heck was a puppy, whatever that means, for a long time. But we want you to tune in tomorrow. Thank you, Charlotte, for joining us today. And we'll look forward to seeing you all tomorrow.
See you soon.
Bye-bye.